question seeking clarity from her.
Right, and so still to come, we have questions for oral answer. But just before that, some just quick highlights of what has transpired on the floor of the House, which began by indication of business, and the details of which will be able to give you the highlights contained in the indication of business that the House will consider during the program of work for next week, beginning on Tuesday 11th, running through to Friday 14th of October 2022. But of course, Madam Speaker also did make a ruling, and this ruling was on a point of order raised by Mr. Jamba Machira, Member of Parliament for Mwembeshi, and a complaint by Mr. Fred Jatila, Member of Parliament for Momba constituency, against Mr. Munia Zulu, Member of Parliament for Lumezi constituency, for using insulting language on the floor of the House.
Remember, still to come, like my colleague mentioned earlier on, we do have 3 questions for oral answer under Standing Order 74, and we'll have the motion of supply, the motion of 30th September, and the mover of this motion is the Minister of Finance. As of yesterday, it was Namwala Member of Parliament, Mr. Mapani, that's Mr. Herbert Mapani, who was on the floor of the House debating. So when that motion comes up for consideration or resumption of debate, he will continue debating.
Right, and just in case you missed our outlook of the order paper, the question that comes first, which is question number 58, comes from Malole, Member of Parliament, Mr. Kalimi, directed to the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, in which he wants to find out whether the water reticulation project in Mungwe has not commenced despite the contract being awarded in 2019, and what the cause of the delay in commencing the project is. He further wants to find out what the cost of the project is and what the time frame for the completion of the project is. Just about now, we'll take you to the floor of the House.
Madam Speaker.
Oh, sorry. I'm medical. Okay. I forgot that it was. Yeah, sorry.
Right, and members are just getting back to the House, and seemingly there's no quorum on the floor of the House for business to resume, and the bells will ring before business commencing. We're earlier looking at business that is being considered. We had a ministerial statement that was presented by the Minister of Health, and it came as a directive by Madam Speaker to the Minister of Health to clarify, following a question of an urgent nature that came from Kalabo Central Member of Parliament, and that was looking at the availability of insulin on Kalabo District. And at the time that business was interrupted for a health break, Kantanshi Member of Parliament had posed a follow-up question seeking clarification, and the Minister had just concluded responding to that particular question. So business will resume soon, and we expect other business to be conducted. So it's Madam Speaker's discretion whether to give members of Parliament further chance to seek clarification or to make progress and consider other matters that are ahead of us. So currently the bells are ringing, Possent.
Yes, the bells are ringing, and when business resumes, the House will continue considering. And we do have other business, like you mentioned, Julius. We do have question 59, which will come from Mapatizia Member of Parliament, Ms. Munashabantu, and this question will be directed to the Minister of Energy. She would like to find out when the Mapatizia parliamentary constituents will be connected to the national electricity grid, and what the cause of the delay in connecting the constituency is.
Mr. Anton Kasandwe's question is directed to the Minister of Finance and National Planning, in which he wants to find out how many pensioners were paid countrywide from 2017 to 2021 year by year, how many pensioners were not paid as of December 2021, how much money was owed to pensioners as of the same date, and whether there are any pensioners that did not receive their monthly pension as of January 2022, and if so, how many there were. So that is yet another question that comes from Mr. Kasandwe, a Bagwelu member of Parliament. And it appears so should be having a quorum now, and business is expected to resume.
When business was suspended, the House was considering the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Health, and the Honorable Minister had just finished answering a follow-up question by the Honorable Member for Kantanshi. Any further supplementary questions? Before we proceed, Honorable Member for Bangor, you have a point of order, but maybe before you raise a point of order, I had given the Minister some time to answer that question because it arose from some questions that were asked the other day and even the one that was asked by Honorable Member for Kantanshi. So I wanted to give her time to explain exactly what is happening on the ground. The Honorable Member for Bangor, and in terms of time, I'll add 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The point of order is pursuant to Standing Order 65, Standing Order 66, and the Standing Order 59 on limit of debate, because you've just explained the Minister went beyond the 8 minutes in answering the question. But my substantive point of order is on 65 and 66. In answer, the Honorable Minister said that the PF have put the minister's numbers on social media, and she said that is being childish. So she called the PF childish. And in fact, the numbers of members of parliament are on the parliament website. It's not the PF that have put there. So is the honorable member of health in order to refer to PF as childish, and while pointing finger on this side? Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. To the extent that the Honorable Minister said the members of Parliament for PF are childish, she was out of order. The other issues about the numbers, I think there was a point of order that was raised, and we had advised that complaint be written so that we can address that issue. So I think we can make progress. Any supplementary questions? The Honorable Member for Chipiri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, since now you have confirmed that the drug in question is available in Kalabo, can you encourage, with your support, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalabo to go and report this case to police so that those who are on duty, that they can be arrested and be charged with negligence? I thank you.
I don't know if the Honorable Minister wants to make a comment on that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for the follow-up question. I'm not sure, Madam Speaker, whether that is how we should be running our clinics, that if somebody goes there, they're told there's no drugs, then somebody must go and report them to the police. Except to say that one of the things that I came across at Mtendere, when I asked them, why is it that when people come, you give them prescriptions? They told me that in some instances, even when they have the drug, it was true that they do give prescriptions. And they said, we do that when we see that we are low. So when we reach a certain level, say 20%, those that come into the clinic, we tell them to go and buy the drugs. And we reserve that for those that come in the evenings and those that get admitted, because in the evenings we know that we can't send somebody to go and get a drug. And I thought that really that was a sad situation, which was necessitated by the health workers because of the situation that they find themselves. And they, in their own wisdom, they begin to ration even when the drug is there. I thought I should say this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shuangando.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. It's indeed saddening, just by the admission of the Honorable Minister of Health. And I think if she gets to have an honest conversation with our colleagues on the other side, because we as people's representatives, we know what is obtaining on the ground. The situation you have attested, the way you have confirmed in Kalinganiga, where you found health workers telling you that they have to do what they have with the little that is available, is correct. And like I'm saying, if we get to have an honest conversation with our colleagues there without politics involved, the situation in most of our health facilities is dire. And we agree with you that we can encourage people to get on NEMA, of course, knowing the limitations for those of us who represent villagers. It's a challenge. What are you doing, Honorable Minister, to address this situation holistically? Because the isolated instance of acknowledged is what is obtaining everywhere. People are being given prescriptions. And so we don't know what to trust and what to believe when we stand on the floor here and assure us that there are medicines in the facilities. When what we are getting from our people, and some of us get time to visit these facilities, including the hospitals, to just appreciate what is obtaining. What are you doing to address this situation so that we can, all of us, stop, lamenting on this matter and it starts looking like us against you, the minister? Can you give us what you intend to do in order to address this challenge? Because it's concerning, it's a worry to all of us. It's life and death. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Madam Speaker, there are times when questions are raised here and we answer. Like I said earlier, we try to be as factual as we can be, taking into account that certain questions even take 2 months before maybe we are on recess, and when we come back, the questions come, and a situation may have worsened or a situation may even have been resolved. So I think that it's important to clarify that there's no lying or defending. I think I'm not one of those people who defend anything. But the situation that we're in today is better than during the time you were running government. That's the point I want you to agree to. And I can prove it, Madam Speaker, because their facilities I've visited and looked at their stock, history. I was shocked in Kabwe when I went to one of those big hospitals called Kasanda Clinic. I looked at their book to see, the time I went there, I think was January of this year. When I looked at 2021, starting from January to the time September, there were zero. And I asked them, how were you managing? Then they said, oh, some NGOs would bring. It's only now, Madam Speaker, during this administration that there's been an improvement. And you know, Madam Speaker, there are two things. First of all, it is the resources. The MP knows, together with him and everybody, we resolved to double. That was the first point. The second point, they left a law which we still had to come and implement. They took time to implement the act. It is this administration that is implementing that act. Surely, it is them that made the act. It is this administration that has gone into implementing that ZAMSA must start procuring. At the time we went to the ministry, the Ministry of Health was procuring, hence the honeybee. It was under Ministry of Health. Right now, I keep explaining, Ministry of Health is not procuring drugs. That function by the act, which they themselves were part of, has given that function to ZAMSA. And it's a process. And Madam Speaker, it is true. And Madam Speaker, maybe one day you must lead your parliamentarians. Let us go to the UTH, let us go to Levy, and then let us go to any of the facilities, whether Matero, and you speak to them yourself as a head of this institution, so that we all understand the truth. And if it is about bringing any document on this floor, I can bring it. So to say we are doing nothing is not fair. We have improved. Order has come back. But Madam Speaker, I must mention to you that there is an element of undermining the New Dawn government, which is going on. If you go to ZAMS and look at their records, they'll show you that every 2 weeks they're delivering, whether Western Province, Northern, Luapula, they're delivering drugs. But within a short time, that drug disappears. Hence, I said we are looking at technology of tracking under the Ministry of Technology to see whether even the stealing can also be reduced, because we know that drugs are also going out. So, stealing is what? But they're stealing drugs, the people out there. There is theft of drugs. And it has been reported. Some people have even been arrested, especially the districts which are near the borders of the various countries around us. We hear that we've been told that drugs are going outside, and people have been arrested. Some of them have appeared in court. Some of them have been charged, and they are serving sentences. This is there. So these are some of the challenges, but we are doing everything possible. When it comes to procurement, let me say this. We are looking not only at citizens and local, we are also looking at opening new suppliers internationally. We have reopened the Mission Farmer route, which they themselves cancelled, and that is the problem that we have with kids. Secondly, because of the debts which they were not paying, we have since paid those debts, and now we have opened a route with Mission Farmer. We have placed an order for drugs which will last a year. We have opened a route to Egypt. We are now going to open a route with India.
There's a point of order, but I think at the rate that we are going, we will not make any progress. I think the idea here is that if when we identify that there's something wrong or in terms of safe delivery, we as members of parliament, we need to work together. That's why we have committees. On this matter, we have a committee on health. So if we have challenges like this, maybe we should send that matter to the committee on health to explore and find out what are the challenges. And as we look at the challenges, what solutions can we make as by way of overcoming these challenges? Because this is an ongoing process. It didn't start today. It's an ongoing process, and it's something that we need to work on so that we can correct the situation. But we can come here like we are putting a particular minister on trial. I think the issue is not to put anyone on trial, but to see what measures, what mechanisms can we put in place to ensure that the people of Zambia have medicines in the hospital. I think that is where we should be heading towards. And for that reason, I think the Committee on Health, I can see Honorable Dr. Kalila is there. He's the chair of that committee. Please, Honorable Kalila, can you do something to find out what is it on the ground that is making the medicines not to reach our people? That will be able to sort out that problem. So I don't know, Honorable Member for Shwangandu, after saying that, do you still have a point of order?
Madam Speaker, I totally appreciate your ruling, and my point of order is pursuant to Standing Order 67. Relevancy and repetition. My question to the Honorable Minister was very clear, and it was a follow-up on our own admission that in certain circumstances there are a bit of stocks which medical personnel ration. And premise on that, I asked a follow-up question on what her ministry was doing to put measures in place to address this challenge. Partly, your ruling has covered what I would have said, but the Honorable Minister must be advised that we are here to perform the same function you have assigned to your committee on health. We speak for our people. When our people are complaining and are going to these facilities where they don't find medicine, it is our responsibility to bring it to the attention of the executive. And when the minister wants to start apportioning blame to a government she was part of, there's no government she has not been part of. So it's saddening.
Shiwangandu, I think you have made your point, and I've
So
already
we want her
carried
to just understand that we don't want to crucify, but we are speaking for the people. And to make her take responsibility and do the right thing. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. As I earlier guided, you know, this is an ongoing process. The issue of medicines being the shortage of medicines is not a new thing, it's an ongoing process. That's why I was saying that as members of parliament, let's make sure that as we highlight these challenges, we should also propose solutions on how these problems can be addressed. I've heard from the honorable members that efforts to see ministers, they are failing to see honorable ministers. So what we can do is, that's why we have a government chief whip there. That's one of his roles. If you are failing to get in touch with the ministers, please seek assistance from the government chief whip. The government chief whip, through her honor the vice president, will facilitate. Because the idea is, we are learning from what is on the ground, from the members of parliament who are on the ground. They are in 156 constituencies on the ground. That's why we say, even in terms of decentralization, parliament is more devolved up to the constituency level. So government will benefit from the ideas that come from the members of parliament because they are on the ground. That's why, because members of the parliament are on the ground, that's why they can feed in the committee, feed into the minister, so that we find solutions. Because sitting here and complaining, all the people who hear is, if members of parliament are complaining, what solution do we have? You make them feel like they are not being cared for. So please, as we do, let's work together and ensure that we address the issue of medicines. And it's not only medicines, there are so many other issues. If we all work together, we'll be able to sort out those problems. I think we have sufficiently dealt with this matter. We can make progress. Question for oral answer, understanding order 74. The honorable member for Malole.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question number 58.
The honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Member of Parliament for Malole, Mr. Kalimi, asked the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation the following questions. A, why the water reticulation project in Mungwi district has not commenced despite the contract being awarded in the year 2019. B, what the cause of the delay in commencing the project is. C, what the cost of the project is. And D, what the time frame for the completion of the project is. Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. A, the water reticulation project in Mungwi district could not commence due to non-disbursement of funds from the Treasury. B, The cause of the delay was due to non-disbursement of funds from the Treasury. C, the cost of the project was estimated at 37 million 27,939 kwacha 17 ngwe. And D, the project was scheduled to be completed within a period of 12 months. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Malole.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Minister, for those questions. Minister, I was going through the budget, and I didn't see if indeed Malole is covered under this project. Can you assure the House that maybe this project can be done under this budget? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, under the 2022 budget, Madam Speaker, we did provide for this project to a tune of 5.4 million kwacha, and this project will be done in various stages. So for phase one, we intend to spend 5.4 million kwacha. So it is catered for, and I want to assure the Member of Parliament that going forward in the subsequent years, we will be able to continue allocating funds in various stages until we finish this project. It is a critical project, Madam Speaker, to ensure that the people of Mungwi district, whom I love so much, and the MP for Malole is aware of that we should do get them to have access to clean and safe water. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, when the Minister of Finance presented the budget, he said this, and I quote, "There is now budget credibility." In simple terms, this means that government is now spending in accordance with what Parliament approves, with only minimal deviations. Honorable Minister, since the Minister of Finance has actually funded this project, why would you come here and tell us that there were no releases with this budget credibility, which the minister promoted as he delivered his budget speech? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The only challenge I have there is the budget is not yet here before us. All we have is the budget speech. So if we go in those details, why don't we reserve those questions when we are discussing the budget? The minister has assured, although I'm not so. Anyway, let the minister speak. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My response, Madam Speaker, was to the extent that the project, this contract was signed in 2019. So from 2019, there were no funds that were released from the Treasury. Then, in our first budget as New Dawn government, we have provided some funds, and we want to rescope this project, because a project which started in 2018, 2019, the cost cannot be the same. So we need to, in any case, the contract expired because the money was not being released, just like in many projects, Madam Speaker, where we had these projects not moving because there was no money being released from the Treasury. And I agree with you that, yes, we are being prudent as a New Dawn government in ensuring that we allocate the funds and we release. And to that effect, even projects, Madam Speaker, like the Kafulafuta Dam project, which is stalled for many years, we have put it back on track. And the Mungwi project, which we are discussing here, I've assured the Member of Parliament who asked this question that we are going to do it in various stages. And the first stage, we have allocated 5.4 million kwacha to cater for the first stage. So I don't know what more information the Member of Parliament, Madam Speaker, wants, but just to say that from 2018-2019, up to the time we took over government, there was no money being released from the Treasury. And obviously, I know you want us to take responsibility, but this government was not there when this project started in 2018 and 2019. Now that we have taken over, I'm telling you that we are releasing the funds, and we have allocated 5.4 million to go towards the first stage of this project under the 2022 budget. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Malole, do you have any other question?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Minister of Water Development, for that assurance. I think the people of Mungu will be smiling and waiting for assurance. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Let's make progress. We have so much work pending. Next question, the Honorable Member for Mapatisia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 59.
The Honorable Minister, Acting Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member for Mapatisia has asked the Minister of Energy to respond to the following questions. A, when Mapatisia parliamentary constituency will be connected to the national electricity grid, and B, what the cause of the delay in connecting the constituency is. In response, Madam Speaker, in A, according to the Rural Electrification Master Plan, the REMP, Mapatisia parliamentary constituency is earmarked for electrification in 2030, according to the plan that we found as the New Dawn government. However, the Rural Electrification Authority conducted a feasibility study to establish the scope and cost of electrifying the public institutions along the route from Choma to Kalomo Junction to Mapatisia parliamentary constituency. Madam Speaker, the scope involves the construction of 250 kilometers of 33 kV overhead lines, 22,390 meters of 400 V overhead lines, the installation of 23 times 50 kVA transformers at an estimated cost of Zambian kwacha 134,417,919.77. The main beneficiaries targeted for this study are Inkumbi Primary, Siakalumbi Primary School, Kawanga Rural Growth Center, Kasikili Primary, Lubombo Primary, Luyaba Primary and Rural Health Care Center, Nalubamba Primary, Misiki Primary, Njokwe Primary, Sialumba Primary, Siamafumba Primary and Rural Health Center, Sianjina Primary School, Siakalele Primary School, Sipatunyana Rural Health Center and Market, and, Madam Speaker, Mapatisia Rural Health Center. So these are studies that have been undertaken in anticipation of future activities, Madam Speaker. And in B, where the question is what the cause of the delay in connecting the constituency is, the answer, Madam Speaker, is that there has been no delay in principle in connecting the constituency to the national grid by the plans that we found in place. However, Madam Speaker, due to an increase in the budget the RIA's budget by the New Dawn government. The New Dawn government is in the process of reviewing the master plan so as to ensure that demands of the majority of our people are answered and have access access to electricity. I wish to urge members of parliament to accelerate across the nation, in fact, accelerate the electrification drive also, Madam Speaker, through funding that is provided through the CDF. That is an opportunity there. The Rural Electrification Authority is available for technical support with regard to supporting electrification projects in the constituencies should they opt to use CDF, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Mapatizia, do you have any?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, looking at the study which was done and the projection that this could be done in 2030, could the ministry consider reviewing it and maybe give us hope, maybe in the midterm? I thank you.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Energy.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank the Honourable Member from Mapatizia for the follow-up question. If the Honourable Member heard what I said, Madam Speaker, there is an opportunity because now RIA has that provision for an increase in the budget. And so this is an opportunity that will cause us in a year to review, to do a mid-term review that could begin to make direction or show us direction on which aspects or which projects can be prioritized according to that budget that RIA has. So there is indeed an opportunity for a mid-term review of that plan, that long-term plan that goes to 2030. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Sinazongwe.
Madam, thank you so much. Honorable Minister, you did indicate that there is a feasibility study going on, meaning connecting from Choma via Kalomo to Mapatizia. I believe the distance is too much. Why don't you think of solar as an immediate enabler to sorting out the problems in Mapatizia constituency, which is my neighbor? Thank you.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Member, for that question, that follow-up question. Madam Speaker, I should take this opportunity to announce to this House that indeed this week is a week that has been dedicated to sharing and creating awareness by the ministry on alternative energy. And so there's an exhibition that is going on at Levy Park, and that week was launched by myself as acting minister on behalf of the minister. And this is a place where we are looking at different technologies, including solar that has been indicated and mentioned. So these are some of the alternatives that will be looked at when we consider that midterm review to see what can be done even before 2030, Madam Speaker. So there is an opportunity at the review that will be looking at the technologies as well as possibilities of the budgets that can allocate different technologies in different locations. So indeed, the people of Mapatizia should be able to target and move with their government in ensuring that we begin to take a bite at some of the issues or some of the needs that they have in that community. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Next question, the Honorable Member for Bangweru.
Question number 60, Madam Speaker.
The Acting Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank the honourable member for Bangweulu, who has asked the question. They asked the Minister of Finance and National Planning the following questions: how many pensioners were paid countrywide from 2017 to 2021 year by year? And B, how many pensioners were not paid for December 2021? C, how much money was owed to the pensioners as of the same date? D, whether there are any pensioners that did not receive their monthly pension as of January 2022, and in E, if so, how many they were. Madam Speaker, the following are the responses. In A, the total number of pensioners who were paid from 2017 to 2021 year by year are as follows in the following profile. 2017, number of pensioners were 3,771, and the amount of money that was paid was 1.55 billion kwacha. In number 2, 2018, the pensioners that were paid were 1,252 in the amount of 645 million kwacha. 2019, pensioners paid were 214 in the amount of 101 million kwacha. In 2020, the pensioners paid were 2,313, and the amount was 1.17 billion kwacha. And in 2021, the number of pensioners paid were 2,345, and the amount was 1.82 billion kwacha. And the total of those pensioners paid were 9,890. And the total amounts disbursed were 5.29 billion kwacha. In B, Madam Speaker, the total number of pensioners that were not paid as of December 2021 was 2,249 and are categorized as follows. In 1, statutory retirements, the number of pensioners that didn't receive were 1,375. And 2, early retirement. Under early retirement, there were 874. There were 874. In total, those pensioners that were not paid as of December 2021 were 2,249. In C, Madam Speaker, the money that was not owed to the pensioners, Madam Speaker, the money that was owed to the pensioners as of December 2021 was 1.375 billion kwacha. This was categorized as follows. 1, statutory retirement. The number of pensioners were 1,375, and the amount of money that was owed was 879.58 kwacha, billion kwacha. Under early retirement, Madam Speaker, number of pensioners that were owed 874, and the amount is 495.40. In total, Madam Speaker, the number of pensioners were 1,249 that were still owed, and the amount was 1.374.98 billion kwacha. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that, yes, some pensioners did not receive their monthly pensions as at January 2022. So some pensioners at January didn't receive their pensions. And in number E, the total number of pensioners that did not receive their monthly pensions in January, the one I've just referred to, was 449. The pensioners were paid a lump sum pension in the month of January 2022, but could not be introduced on the January monthly payroll, as the payroll was closed for input at that time. However, they were included on the February 2022 payroll, Madam Speaker. I submit.
Thank you. Supplementary questions, Honorable Member for Bangweru.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This question, Madam Speaker, arose from the very fact that during budget debate last year, there were insinuations that the PF neglected to pay pensioners. So this question was actually asked in February. Minister, thank you to having demonstrated that from 2017 to 2021, pensioners were being paid. And according to your answer, only 2,249 were remaining. So my question is, out of the remaining number, how many have you paid so far?
The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member for Bangweulu. Indeed, there are two things that you have to do. We respond and react to the public debate and the way the public debate is flowing on and around an issue. If matters are not well managed and you let grievance continue to run, then you end up in a situation where you might appear like you have not done the job. Obviously, there was a number of people, quite a few of them, that had not received their monies. But, Madam Speaker, I'd like to make mention to this House, to announce to this House that we are now at the point where we are up to date, where in the next few months we should be able to clear pensioners who are just falling eligible as they leave their employment within 3 months. I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chiluvi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As by 2011, when the PF took over, they found a number of over 22,000 pensioners were not paid. And what the public know, and then it's good that you have confirmed today, is that the PF neglected to pay the pensioners.
Honorable Member for Chiluvi, what's your supplementary question?
Madam, I'll ask you my supplementary question. I'm doing a build-up.
Don't debate, just ask.
Anyway, Madam, I think let the Minister attend to other businesses.
The Honorable there was no question. So, the Honorable Member for Bangweru.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. Minister, by the very fact that we have confirmed that now there are 0 people to be paid, so that in itself implies that these people are no longer on government payroll. If that is true, when are you going to advertise the vacancies that has been created by the fact that now the people who are being owed are no longer on government payroll? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Now, I don't know whether the Honorable Acting Minister will be ready to answer that question, because that does not arise from this question that you've asked, Honorable Member. The issue of advertising for the vacancies. maybe you can put in another question to ask when the positions that have been left vacant by the clearing of the pensioners will be filled. Otherwise, maybe you can ask another question. You have another question? Okay. Since the honorable member is satisfied, we can make progress. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Supply motion of 30th September 2022, resumption of debate.
When business was interrupted yesterday, Thursday, 6 October 2022, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2023 to 31st December 2023, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2022. And the Honorable Member for Namwala was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker. In conclusion, the people of Namwala, Madam Speaker, are happy with this budget. We expect now our District General Hospital to be completed, the township roads too to be attended. Further, Madam Speaker, using this same budget, we expect now all the insemination centers to be completed and opened. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chienge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing the voice of the good people of Chienge to be heard on this very important budget speech. Madam Speaker, what I know is that budget is not like an actual thing. It's just like an estimate, which is likely to be actualized or not. And I believe from the speech that the minister gave, it sounded good, but I know, being the second time in this house, I've heard of so many good budgets, speeches, and also even estimates, which have some have been actualized and some have never been. And we keep on going and going. And I believe the people of Chienge would like just to add a word to say would want to see whatever has been estimated for, at least 90% to be actualized, because it's like now we are getting used to a certain song of these budgets as a nation. Madam Speaker, allow me to look at budget performance, which the Minister of Finance spoke about. I'm very worried that the Minister also agreed that the budget did not perform the way it was supposed to perform because of some few things that were not actualized. Madam Speaker, I think it's very important that the nation is told exactly, was given the information of what was actualized, apart from what I've seen here, the CDF and other things. The nation has to be told, this is what we estimated for, and this is what we've actualized. It should be itemized in some ways in the speech, because it's not about tabulation, but just to be itemized. I think it will help the Zambians and a person like me who's not coming from the financial background to be able to understand and explain also to the people of Chienge in vernacular. So I would like to see to it that in the future, the minister comes with some kind of itemized how the government has worked with the budget which has been presented on the floor of the House. Madam Speaker, I would like to take the House quickly to page 57 on agro-processing. Our country, we are dependent on copper and also agriculture, and the President has been talking about improving our economy using agriculture, homegrown solutions. Madam Speaker, when I looked at page 7, allow me to read a part of it on agro-processing. Madam Speaker, to attract investment into corn starch processing, I promise to introduce income tax concessions for 15 years on income generated from local sales of corn starch by agro-processing businesses operating in facility economic zones, industrial parks, or rural areas as follows. If you look at these concessions, I believe it would have been better, these concessions to be given to the locals. Why am I saying so, Madam Speaker? Most of these investors who come and who are in facility economic zones are foreign investors who are already enjoying most of incentives that are given to them by ZDA and our government, of course. So I believe this should have worked better for the locals. Like in Chieng, we've got a lot of mangoes, and I would like to start processing that. But if I'm being given the same concession, income tax concessions with the foreign investor, I think there's a problem there. And I think we're being ripped off big time. Looking at some companies even have some tax holidays. So I think the Ministry of Finance and Planning, since they've not yet brought the figures here, should go and work how it's going to work. We cannot have the same kind of concessions with the locals and the foreign investors. It's very important that the Zambians, the citizens, are given the first priority. Then we believe that indeed it's a new dawn and they're taking care of their own before others. In Bemba, we say, akachila kambushi kasengu iropo kekere. If you look at where the goat is, it's busy, wagging its tail, cleaning up where it is, because that's where it believes that's its territory. It cannot go and do the cleaning the other side. So, Madam Speaker, I just want to emphasize and to insist that this agro-processing, to encourage more Zambians to invest, they should have these kind of concessions than giving exactly same with the foreign investors. With a few words, Madam Speaker, I'm looking forward to the figures, and I believe in the 2024 budget we'll see maybe some of these being actualized. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for a chance to reflect on the budget speech delivered by the Honorable Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance gave us some information, and I thought he was doing so in the context of very high poverty. Right now, the country has experienced tremendous poverty. I thought he was doing so in the context of very high youth unemployment and indeed the rising cost of living. As a result, Madam Speaker, I expected that the Honorable Minister was going to direct some of his intended activities in this budget address towards addressing these issues, which I thought were the basis for this address. Madam Speaker, immediately the Minister addressed this House, fuel was increased, not by coincidence, but by a deliberate measure which the Minister pronounced. Therefore, he increased the pain on the part of the Zambian people, particularly the poor Zambian people. Madam Speaker, let me also address some of the issues which cause me not to have much confidence in ministerial pronouncements such as the national budget. Madam Speaker, the Minister established that he wants or he targets to achieve a fiscal deficit of 7.7% in 2023. But on the same day, in the same budget address, he has written the fiscal deficit of 10.3%. Now, when I calculated, Madam Speaker, when I calculated the economy, the GDP, based on the fact that he said 167.5 billion is equal to 31.4% of the GDP. Therefore, 100% of the GDP is around 365 billion. Now, what is 7.7% of that economy? It will give you 28 billion. 28 billion, Madam Speaker, is not what he has put in the budget. Instead, there is 53 billion, meaning that the fiscal deficit, which is actually contained in this budget address, is 14%. Now, you have 3 percentages in one budget address, speaking to the same target of the fiscal deficit. This, Madam Speaker, is, for me, a serious contradiction, which causes me not to have a lot of faith in the pronouncements of this budget address. Madam Speaker, 90% of the Zambian youths are employed in the MSME sector. Where is the hope for the MSME sector in order to reduce unemployment? The hope, Madam Speaker, lies in the UPND government directing resources towards this sector. But what did the minister tell us? The minister told us MSMEs will get support from CDF. MSMEs will get support from CEC. CDF, Madam Speaker, is 4.3 billion kwacha, projected to at 4.3 billion kwacha. That is if you take 28 million for all the 156 constituencies. And then the solution lying in CEC is only 300, just over 300, I have the actual, 365 million. Now, when you add the 4.3 with 365 million, you are just getting 4.4 billion kwacha. 4.4 billion kwacha, Madam Speaker, is 2.6% of the projected budget. Now, how can you solve the biggest problem we have with 2.6% of the budget? As a matter of fact, the CDF, there is no law which ensures that only small and medium enterprises benefit from CDF. There is absolutely no law. Mega businesses can benefit from CDF. This is why we have seen motor vehicles are being bought not from a small company, but from big companies. And they are being bought not in the respective local councils, but at the ministry headquarters. So to assume that MSMEs are the only enterprises that are going to benefit from CDF is actually something that cannot be believed by anyone, because we know mega businesses are going to tap into this fund. Madam Speaker, mineral royalty tax was made deductible by the Honorable Minister of Finance in the current budget. What the minister has done is to maintain that deductibility and also reduce it by making the taxation regime incremental. Now mineral royalty tax will be taken like pay as you earn. All this to support the, the investors, the so-called investors, who have also been supported in so many other ways by even reducing their property transfer tax, when the Zambian people's property transfer tax has been increased. Can you imagine the minister increasing your and my property transfer tax the same day that the investors' property transfer tax is being reduced? I think that the focus on the so-called investors must begin to minimize. And we have, as a country now, begin to focus on the people who have us here. I think that my colleagues, the UPND government, were brought into government by the Zambian people, and the Zambian people are the ones who deserve more support from the government as opposed to supporting particularly foreign investors, many of whom have been actually in this budget address, many of whom are going to come into this country even without paying a single dollar for a visa. When in fact, for us to go to their countries, for example, if I want to just go and see the Liberty Tower in New Jersey, I have to pay. If I want to go and see the spear in Ireland, I've got to pay for a visa fee. Why should they be coming here to see our Victoria Falls without paying, Madam Speaker? So this focus on foreigners must reduce. Let's now begin to focus on the Zambian people. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lukulu East.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you most sincerely for giving me an opportunity to make comments on the budget speech delivered by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Stumbeko Msoko Twane. First, I must congratulate him for a very progressive budget, well thought out and innovative, in the sense that it was very well explained for the first time. I saw him giving lectures while at the same time delivering the budget to those that may have not understood the rationale of this budget address. I will go straight into the aspects that I wish to comment upon. I realize several other colleagues wish to make comments on this same budget address. First of all, our budget has obviously been pegged at 163.7 billion kwacha. In order to move a step forward from having stabilized the economy in terms of the macroeconomic environment, the minister has made several pronouncements by way of policy and strategies to stimulate the economy. And that is very welcome because that's what we need in order to create employment and improve the livelihoods of our people, which is in tandem with the theme for this year's budget. Madam Speaker, I will choose to speak specifically in the health sector. And in this particular case, I wish to make some comments with regard to the topical issue of medicines and drugs in our health facilities. In so doing, I would like to quote the Minister. First of all, in paragraph 134, the Minister's speech reads, Madam Speaker, health is wealth. Indeed, Madam Speaker, health is wealth. We cannot stimulate growth without investing in the health of our people. Government will continue to improve the provision of quality healthcare services through the recruitment of health personnel, infrastructure, development and provision of drugs and medical supplies. Madam Speaker, the issue of drugs has been extremely very topical. There are currently accusations going back and forth, including on the floor of this House, as to why the situation is as it is. And here are my thoughts. First, Minister Stumbeko has increased the budgetary allocation to the line for the supply of medicines to 4.6 billion. This is very commendable, as opposed to 3.4 in the last budget. Although the last budget made a provision for 3.4, Madam, we continue to see significant pressures in this respect. The argument is still not yet settled. There's still those that still feel that there are frequent stockouts, and there are also, on the other hand, from government saying, well, we have enough of these commodities. But here are my thoughts, Madam. First, I did send a query through your office to ZAMSA to try and understand what is the total quantification that this country requires in any given year in cost terms. And I got the answer yesterday that in fact this country requires 19 billion kwacha in order to sustain the health sector by way of supplying the medicines. So when you look at 19 billion, Madam Speaker, and the allocation of 3.4 the last year, and this year 4.6, you can clearly see where the problem is, Madam Speaker. This figure is not coming from me. I have the formal letter from ZAMSA. So you can understand. So, in short, we are buying too little for too many people. So even if we buy and then we push these medicines, definitely in 2 weeks they will run out. And hence the reason why you see this. I still, although it is very commendable that there has been an increase, I still feel that going forward, we need to give this budget line some more funding. But that's not the only reason too, Madam Speaker. You realize that all this money which we have given, unfortunately, will all go to India. My colleagues in the Health Committee understand this very well. Why? Because we do not make these products here. So all the products that we use, 90% of them, as a matter of fact, come all the way from India. So when we process an order, notwithstanding the various processes that take place into doing that, it has to go, and then we have to wait for the lead time, which can vary from anywhere between 3 months to 6 months before you get these commodities. In the meantime, we have all these significant challenges. So what we need going forward is to promote local pharmaceutical manufacturing here. I noticed the Honorable Minister giving out several incentives. Unfortunately, there were no incentives that were given to the local pharmaceutical manufacturing. Today, there are only 4 companies that make these products. Even these 4 companies make only the simple preparations. When we ask why there are not so many people entering this sector, the answer is always the same. First, in order for you to import the powders and the liquids that are needed to make capsules or tablets, you need to pay duty. You also need to pay VAT. But if you are importing the same medicine here, such as Panadol, aspirin finished, there is no duty and nothing. What does that mean? It therefore means that it makes sense to just sit back and import these products rather than make them here. So going forward, one of the key ingredients or steps to take in order to promote local pharmaceutical manufacturing is to change the tax regime, to remove all these permits, to zero rate all these raw materials, as our friends have done in Tanzania, where my colleagues and I went. Just when they took this simple measure of removing taxes on raw materials for making medicines, they now have 42 companies at various stages which have entered the market to start making these products. So until we start making them here, we will continue to cry here because it takes time to bring them here. Even life-saving medicines like insulin, which you can, if you were making it here, you would just go to the manufacturer and get it. You have to wait for it to come all the way from places far off, such as India. So I still make a strong case that we needed some additional tax exemptions for those that want to enter into this market. Madam Speaker, I could speak more. In fact, I had several issues, but for reasons of time. Lastly, we are just coming from a COVID pandemic which disrupted economies, and I would have loved this budget speech to include a line or two and an allocation for epidemic preparedness. But there's nothing. So if today we have to get another flare up, we'll start running around looking for resources here and there or a supplementary budget to fight this. In any case, Madam Speaker, this is already provided for under the Zambia National Public Health Institute. There is a requirement for a National Public Emergency Fund. It has not yet been operationalized because there's no money in there. So I would have loved to see, of course, I'm yet to see the yellow book. Hopefully we'll be able to see if there's any fund into this. So, Madam Speaker, thank you very much, even for the challenge to our committee to undertake a more comprehensive approach to try and understand why we have these significant challenges. Yes, we are buying medicines, but we are buying very little. Why? Because we need more. And that's the reason why we are where we are. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for this.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Solwezi East, you have indicated you have a request for a point of order. What's the point of order?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We always endeavor to raise point of order where it matters the most. Madam Speaker, our standing orders 203, conduct of members. Just but a member shall at all times conduct himself or herself in a manner that upholds the dignity, integrity, and decorum of the House. And 205, Part A. 205, gross disorderly conduct. A member commits an act of gross disorderly conduct if the member, just Part A, defies a ruling
or direction of a presiding officer. Madam Speaker, just a while ago, you guided Honorable Member for Chulubi, Honorable Fube, and he just defied your guidance and abandoned the question and decided to sit down. Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 203 Part A and 205 Part A, is it in order to sit there majestically looking at me, Madam Speaker, having disconducted himself grossly in that manner? I seek your serious ruling for future decorum to be observed, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I think what I'll do is I'll reserve the ruling so that we can look at that closely. We don't want to punish too many people today. I think one is just enough. Can we make progress? The Honorable Member for Mwasavombwe.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Masabombwe this opportunity to add a voice to the budget speech which was presented by the Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, first of all, let me start by looking at the mines, Madam Speaker. We all agree to say Zambia still depends in a large number on mining. I still fail to understand as to why we're giving so many concessions to the mine when we know that mining is where we earn our forex, our foreign exchange. I mean, Madam Speaker, these concessions which are being given to the mines, they are a futuristic case. When for instance, we are projecting to increase our production from 800 metric tons to 3,000 metric tons in the period of 3 years, Madam Speaker. This is something which we don't even have control over. And again, if you look at these same concessions, they are not again being supported in terms of the energy sector. If all these mines were in full capacity in terms of production, we'll still need much more energy to support the production. Madam Speaker, the best thing maybe we should do when it comes to mining is by putting measures which will monitor the production of these mineral resources. Most of these mines don't even declare the correct productions of the minerals they mine, Madam Speaker. Increasing in copper production will not at all even have an effect to change our economy. The only thing which, as a country, we should build on, it's on industries which we know will have control over. These mining firms, we don't have control even when it comes to pricing of the commodity itself. And then the prices are controlled on the international London Exchange stocks, Madam Speaker. And let me also touch on Indeni, Madam Speaker. I'm receiving so many questions when it comes to Indeni, Madam Speaker. People need the clarity to us which which finished product are we going to be dealing with once Indeni is start functioning in terms of the finished product? Because as far as I am concerned, Madam Speaker, there are about a number of byproducts which 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 in then used to make, Madam Speaker. You are looking at HF4, jet fuel, and diesel and petrol. Now that we've only got one line, the Tazama pipeline, does it mean that government is going to make more lines to be supplying these finished products, Madam Speaker? And one other question again is, what is government's position over the stock feed, which is in the pipeline, which is worth a million of kwachas once we resort into finished products? What is government position over the stock feed, which is in the line? Madam Speaker, if I look on the increase which has been put on property transfer tax, Madam Speaker, this is having a very negative effect on the Zambian people, Madam Speaker. Again, if you look on page, if you look on page 49 of the speech, Madam Speaker, uh, where government is expected to collect uh, about 19 million from pay as you earn and 21 million from company tax. This is something again which is putting so much pressure on the Zambians, Madam Speaker. I would urge government to reconsider that the people of Zambia are the people who voted for us, and let us see how we can cushion.
Order, honorable member. In view of the noise that is very strange, I suspend business for 5 minutes for them to check on what is happening. We don't want to be caught up on the left foot.
problem that is in the chamber, but of course progress will be made, and the House is currently considering the motion of supply.
Madam Speaker.
When business was suspended, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning that the House do now resolve into Committee of Supply on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 1st January 2023 to 31st December 2023, together with the annual borrowing plan presented to the National Assembly in September 2022. And the Honorable Member for Mwansabombwe was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I even conclude, Madam Speaker, if you look at the allocation which government has allocated towards arrears, 6 billion kwacha, it's a very small amount if you look at the backlog of suppliers who are yet to be paid by the government, Madam Speaker. It's so sad that the amount of money which has apportioned is so little to make a difference, Madam Speaker. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, again there is a line on page 49 where the minister is expecting to collect about 8.5 from user fees and fines and charges. Again, Madam Speaker, this is a very sad situation to the Zambian people. How can we, as a government, expect to collect such a huge amount of 8.5, almost the same amount as what we are going to collect from the mining royalties, Madam Speaker? It's high time Zambians should be considered when it comes to apportioning of these resources. But from what I'm seeing is Zambians are going to be heavily taxed in terms of fines and fees. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Yeah, for allowing me and the people of Kalomo to look at the 2023 budget speech, which was done on the 30th September 2023. Before I come to my speech, I would like to make comments on what the previous speakers said. One speaker said the idea of giving tax incentives is a bad idea, or the idea of giving concessions, allowing people to come here free on visas some countries is not a good idea. It looks like we are concentrating very much on giving people who don't live in the country, which is not true. If you milk the cow and you are not feeding it, you will milk it to a level whereby blood will come out or the calf will die. When you want to make more money, you can make more money in many ways. You can spend more by planting a big field. And when time for harvesting comes, you will harvest more and you will make money through volume. So if now the visa will stop many tourists from coming who could spend so much money on accommodation, on their eating, on their travels, just that small amount stops them from coming, then we are losing a lot of revenue. By you allowing them to come for free, you have many people coming that will spend money, buy from our shops, buy fuel, spend money accommodation, go there, eat from the country. From there, you are creating businesses and jobs for the country. In most countries, you check where they are very successful and relying on tourism, which could actually be our number one financial earner. They allow people to enter in their countries freely, but they pay indirectly, and such payments raises money for the country, for the foreign currency that we badly need. Somebody again came and said, okay, so the tax concessions are very good. You cannot say if DRC is producing 300 more than we do, we're producing 800 metric tons more, 1,000. And DRC does that 3 times more than we do. How can you say the production of just small number is better than a more number? It can't work. The one who's producing more will make more money. So you can't say now, by us aiming to produce more than the volume that we have, it's a bad idea. I don't understand that kind of economics. Another speaker came here and said, no, the budget performance of this budget, of the previous budget we had, is not a good one. But if I'm to read here on page, if I'm to quote on page 4, this is what the finance minister said. Madam Speaker, the overall budget performance is said to even have so far exceeded the target, while expenditures have been contained within the target. A very important aspect of the budget so far is that there has been a high degree of credibility, certainty in the release of funds. Diversions from the budget and are within permissible, whatever variations. This positive performance has been the best in many years. In the past 10 years, in terms of budget performance, the last year's this budget, which we are still in now, has been the best. And how has it been the best? One, the currency stabilized. Inflation went down from 22 to about 9.8. The currency gained from 22, 23 to about 15. Then you come to grants, which never used to come on time, and sometimes we are not there. Grants are going in all the ministries. Long time ago in the previous, people would be playing draft. There was nothing to do in the ministries. No funding. People couldn't even travel, couldn't do their work. But the last budget, that is what we call performance. In terms of even social cash transfer, money has been released on time. Whereas in the previous government, we had about 3 years, no money for social cash transfer. And that budget performance was very bad. So in the past 10 years, 11 years, the last budget or the budget we are in has been the best. Let's say the truth as it is. Madam Speaker, a budget, you look at what you have. For a long time I've been crying, the people of Kalomo would get nothing from the budget. But this is what they are going to get now. We have, first of all, students' allowance, which they had removed. It's back now. Isn't that again? We have now CDF increased from 25 to 28.3. Isn't that a good thing? My people are going to benefit. We also have retirees. They will be paid within 3 months of retiring. Isn't that good? It had never happened in this country. Pay as you earn. People have been relieved of tax. The tax rate was from 4,500. Now we have increased it. All those who are getting up to 4,800, no tax. Because we want to stimulate the economy. That's what you do when you want to stimulate it. You reduce the taxes so that people can spend more, can have more money, and then you stimulate the economy. Then we have also additional of 3,000 health workers being employed. And surely in my constituency, some will be employed. Isn't that good? Also, we have under teaching, 4,500 additional teachers being employed. In the last year of PF, the whole Kalomo district only received 1 teacher. Only 1 teacher. And now we have received many. And people are still saying this budget is not good. Madam Speaker, look at also social cash transfer. 400,000 people are going again to benefit. This government is taking care of the poor. Not only that, from 300, the amount was increased. What are we looking for? All the major stakeholders have come and said, for the past 12 years, this has been the best budget. Ask Bank of Zambia, it's the same. Go and ask a non-governmental organization, it's the same. The farmers are happy. Why are you not happy? Madam Speaker, we are going to have 120 secondary schools. And even if the finance minister is not here, I'm sure you will relay the message. Please, may you let him know that in Kalomo we also want 1 secondary school. There's nothing wrong in asking. Others have not asked. I'm the first one. I'm sure I'll be given 1. There are also the secondary schools that remained in the MMD era. PF failed to finish them. One good example is Snazongwe. I passed through there, I will see snakes in the classrooms. Built, but you couldn't complete it. This budget is going to complete all the 115 secondary schools. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you want? Let's come to agriculture. It's the main employer. Under irrigation, 40 dams are going to be built. You see, I can't even finish, the list is too long. Extension officers are going to be employed, motorbikes, everything here. So if you look at all this and we come to manufacturing, electric cars in Copper Belt, fertilizer will be produced in Chilanga. What else do you want? This is the best budget I've ever seen in Zambia. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Order. There's an indication for a point of order. Honorable Member for Chirubi, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted your ruling on the claim that in the 10 years of the PF, Kaloma has only received one teacher. Is that not misleading to the nation?
To your knowledge, Honorable Member for Chirubi, how many teachers did the school receive?
Not Kusabaina. Madam Speaker, I wish that I would come with statistics because it referred to the 10 what? And I know that, yes, I don't know. I am a very fair person. So I wish that I can come with statistics and present to this house because I know it's not one teacher. I monitor the education bulletin every time. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Chirubi. The Honorable Member for Kalomo Central is speaking on behalf of his constituency. He's there on the ground. He's better placed to give us the correct figures. And since the Honorable Member for Chirubi has not produced any evidence to counter what the Honorable Member for Kalomo is saying, it's difficult for me to make a ruling without the supporting evidence. So I find nothing wrong with what the Honorable Member for Kalomo has said. Let's make progress. The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, I will be very objective in debating this budget. This budget, many have described it as a populist budget. If the budget is populist, Madam Speaker, it simply means it's speaking to the needs of the people. It's trying to address that which the people want to be addressed. As to the technicality of how the budget will achieve that, I think that remains to be seen. It's a good and a welcome measure, the increment of CDF and its subsequent disbursement. Clearly, we have received, I think, the first quarter of this year, Madam Speaker. I know that the second quarter, some constituencies have received. The third quarter is still sitting at Ministry of Local Government. What we requested is actually the simplification of the guidelines to do with the utilization of these funds. And we are happy that the Minister of Finance has acknowledged that there is need for that to be done. The employment of extra 3,000 teachers is a welcome move. It's in this budget. Madam Speaker, you'll be interested to know that one school in my constituency, Mwira Primary School, has closed because there are no teachers. Even with the employment of 35,000 teachers, as I speak, the school is closed. More than 300 pupils are in their houses waiting for the teachers. So we hope that the government acts. I also not shy away to talk about the revenue side of this budget, where I find there's a bit of a problem. We mostly concentrate on the expenditure because we want things done in our constituencies. We rarely look at where this money is coming from. How do we mobilize resources? Madam Speaker, the budget has suggested that much of this revenue will be coming from domestically sourced resources. And the sources of this domestic revenue mostly is pay as you earn, corporate tax, and other non-tax interventions. Madam Speaker, we are concerned on behalf of the people of Chama South. Why have we given so many tax concessions to the mines? Why? I want to state that there is no evidence linking tax concessions and mine expansion in terms of higher productions. There is no such evidence, and I want to challenge the Minister of Finance. Check. There is no relationship between tax concessions and higher mining output. There's nothing like that, including investment. There's a difference between consistency in mining policies and taxation. Is there something that is going on in the mining sector which we Zambians do not know? What if you give these tax concessions, then the mines continue declaring losses? Or what if copper prices plummet? Are we going to achieve what we are supposed to achieve? Let me demonstrate this, Madam Speaker. When this government, in the first budget, gave tax concessions to the mines, instead of copper output going up, it contracted. Go and check statistics. So for me, I want to appeal to the Minister of Finance to ensure that in the mining sector, can we get what we are supposed to get? And for the mines, for the mining houses that are in the habit of lobbying for these concessions, we want to warn you. Minerals of this country belong to the people of this country. It is just fair that you pay a fair share so that other sectors can be financed from the resources coming from the mining sector.
Order. As the time is 12:55 hours, I interrupt proceedings and debate stands adjourned. Day for resumption of debate.
On Tuesday, Madam Speaker.
Debate to resume on next Tuesday. The House is now adjourned.
Right, there you have it. Madam Speaker's procession making way, signifying end of business for this week, closing today. And Lunte Member of Parliament, Mr. Mungandu, was on the floor of the House contributing to the motion of supply. So business has closed until next week, Tuesday, 11th October 2022.
Actually, Julius, it's Chama South Member of Parliament.
Yeah, exactly. I beg
Let's
your
quickly
pardon.
look at what has been considered on the floor of the House when business resumed at 09 hours. Madam Speaker did make a ruling, and this ruling was on a point of order raised by Mr. M. Jamba, Member of Parliament for Mwembeshi constituency, and accompanied by Mr. F.C. Chatila, Member of Parliament for Momba constituency, against Mr. M. Zulu, Member of Parliament for Lumezi constituency, for using insulting language on the floor of the House. And Madam Speaker did proceed by giving a brief background of what really transpired on that particular day. A bit of the details, Julius.
All right, and of course,